Barry probably wore you out. Just a couple highlights, right? Obviously, draft weekend coming up. Super excited. We'll head off tomorrow to go be with PB, and don't know exactly where it's going to go, but I would say similar to Tip Bryman a year ago. Since the combine, I've been receiving phone calls on a daily basis just about who he is, what he represents. They don't ask my opinion of him as so much a player. They're just asking for what kind of person he is. He literally sat right there every day and just represented his place in so many positive ways. So super excited to see where that goes for him, as well as several other guys. I do think we have guys that maybe a couple guys could be fringe draft, but not a lot of guys that'll be high priority free agents from what I'm kind of gathering. Excited for those guys, but we finished 15 practices here with us. Obviously, I told the team all the time, right, from practice 1 to where we are 15, everybody gets 15 practices, but you decide what you want to do with it. So it's kind of my daily challenge. What are you going to do with number 14? What are you going to do with number 13? Just overly impressed with the way our guys worked. New coaches, couldn't have been more excited to add a couple of those guys there at the end. Obviously the NFL called on a couple of my younger coaches to get an opportunity to play there, but side note, James White is out of the office today and tomorrow because he's a presenter at the NFL draft. So when he asked me to do it, I said, yeah, I just had one category. He's got to wear an Illinois sweatshirt on stage. So I don't think he'll pull that off. But kind of cool. I have 3 of my former running backs all presenting. Melvin Gordon, Monty Ball, and James are all going to be there. I think I have 7 former players that are presenting. Maybe one kid that I recruited at Kansas State. That when I was the recruiting coordinator, I remember having a conversation with Coach Snyder about Jordy Nelson at the very end. We actually took him as a DB. That was the only way we could get him into the signing class. Took him as the last signee there at Kansas State when I was recruiting coordinator. So kind of really cool day to see all those guys get up on the big stage. Very excited to see Travis Frederick and Joe Thomas, former O lineman, to hear them go in front of the crowd there. So it should be interesting. Obviously the portal world had a lot of guys jump in. A lot of you know that. I don't think it's done yet either. I think there's a couple guys that I'm in daily conversations with that, I really just try to be upfront and honest with them. It's a kind of a different world right now with the 105 roster count, but then also get word yesterday that might be a variation as well. So there's just so much uncertainty. We've heard this for about a year, and one thing I kept saying as this date kept getting closer and closer, something I've done as a head coach every year is done an exit interview in the fall when the season's done, and then again in the spring when the season's done. And to sit down and interview 110 players takes some time, but it's really one of the most enjoyable parts of my job. I'd say out of 110 interviews, 100 of them were about as great as you could ever imagine, but there's always going to be a few that you have to have some conversations that are difficult for either them or for us or both. But we all grow going forward. So I'm super excited about where our roster is. It's not set yet. Just literally got news walking in the door here. Some good things. Some of you know that I might tweet something that we got some good news coming. But as it plays out, I think the best thing that we have is we've got a really good roster intact. Really good coaches. Super excited about the support that we get from Josh and his crew in athletics, and couldn't be more excited to go into this May period, which for me used a lot of big picture items from administration to Big Ten meetings to, for me, I'm on a couple of different NCAA panels. My coaches will hit the road recruiting, so it's kind of a cool time. They actually get to go in homes in the spring, which has never been done before. So I can't be on the road, but they can, so I'll kind of join them sometimes either FaceTime, Zoom, or in before and after the home visits. But really exciting time for our coaches to get out there as well, see the kids that are committed to us as well as possible 26 editions. So with that, injury-wise, everybody's kind of tracking. All the players that weren't with us in the spring, everybody's been staying on course. Didn't have anybody during the course of the spring that was removed from spring that won't be back with us. Most of our guys, even Aiden Knopick, a couple guys were able to join us for those last couple practices after they got injured in the middle. So I was really excited to get them back and see where they go. So everything on track there. We'll probably give a bigger update in June when we get all of our guys back on campus. They'll be here to this week and next week. And then really in the month of May here at Illinois, that's kind of, we call it our May break. We give them 4 weeks of discretionary where they can't be anything but on their own in the weight room or anything like that. It's usually when they're home. It's when they do little things socially. This is one of the few times a year during May they get that. So it's time I think they look forward to as well as their family. So they're getting ready to enter into that. And then they'll join us on June 2nd will be our first day of an 8-week summer program. So that's about that, and I'll go from there. Any questions?
Coach, that's unusual in this day and age to have a third-year starter at quarterback, with all the movement and whatnot. how much of a competitive advantage is it to have a guy like Luke who's been here and done that?
Yeah. You know, what Luke brings to the table as a quarterback is in itself, very rewarding. I think he's seeing the game better than ever. I told him in our exit meeting, like, he just, in my opinion, is seeing things and anticipating things. He's very diligent in all of his preparation. And then just the respect from his teammates. I would tell you, defensively, one of my biggest battles all the time is having our defensive guys rush the quarterback and getting too close. And I would tell you that the front of our defense, when they're pass rushing, knows who that guy is back there, and it gives them as good as respect as any time I've ever seen any quarterback. So I think the respect he has in his locker room on his team is really, really high, especially with our coaches. I think Barry and Art, a lot has been written about Luke and all the smoke around it. But it was funny when literally Luke was, prior to our bowl game, he and I had conversations, and it was interesting when he and I talked. There wasn't a conversation about anything other than, who was going to be coaching him, who was going to be playing with him, and our plan for the players that were exiting, right? And it's exactly what you want. It's really a pro-style quarterback. It's an NFL type of mentality, and that shows up every day in what he does.
Right, you mentioned it, but based off the order from Judge Wilkins yesterday, you've been very consistent with us that 105 was the number you had to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Has that changed in your mind about maybe it can be bigger than that?
Oh yeah,
and
I knew
have
it was,
to plan for that.
the judge throws curveballs all the time, right? So and it's not just the judge that's up with this one. We've been dealing with this grace. So literally, I had a plan for 105, but I also had a plan for 115 and 120. So I shared that with every kid. So as soon as we have any information, I update them with that. You may see it as a surprise, or you may think what I say, but like the one thing as a coach, I promise you, like I'm a couple steps ahead of where reality is all the time, and I think the good thing about this is, how it's ever going to play out. Right, it just gets everybody on the same page, right? Like, in our conference, I remember we were in Big Ten meetings, and we had schools in our conference that were under 110, and we had schools that were over 140. And when this whole thing came about, Nebraska or certain schools used to have over 200 kids on a roster, and it just allows you to practice so differently. And now to mainstream that so that we can kind of all become in the same ballpark, not only here in the Big Ten Conference, but nationwide. I just want to become comparable, and the more we can stay consistent with everybody else that I'm competing against, and I'm not just talking about the Big Ten, like we compete against the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, and anywhere in the country for recruits. The more we can baseline all of us, like it's so rewarding. It's still kind of a little bit of a, for lack of a better term, a shit show, right? Like we experienced something last week in recruiting that's, I don't think anybody that would manage or understand what our game is all about would be in favor of what happens. So I think the more we can get that streamlined, the better the world will be.
But you added some significant contributors last year in the spring, Zakari,
Yeah.
Torrey, some guys. What is your focus of potential additions?
Yeah.
As you kind of approach?
Each story is a little bit different. Zakari, even though he didn't join us, we knew that was a real deal. So it didn't manifest until June or July. We couldn't say it. We actually have some things that I know are going to happen that haven't been announced that are going to be significant to our roster. But it was definitely, I would say, a smaller number than last year. Even, obviously, Josh entered the portal, and it was a big news flash out, but I actually was going to be surprised if he stayed, right? And had shared that repeatedly with my staff. So, the process to where he ended up probably is a little bit of a shocker, but regardless, I think the part that you work off an 85-man scholarship roster, but you really work off a 70-man travel roster. That's what I constantly go back to. The NFL has basically a 53-man roster, but with the practice squad players, I've kind of learned to run my roster with that 70-man travel roster, and that's really what I've been working off of.
What do you? This is one of the drafts where, you've been all over the place.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing because a lot of your guys are returning. What do you hear from the NFL about the roster you have coming back?
Yeah, it was interesting when we came here on Pro Day. They really came to watch Pat, and then there was, some other guys that, Zakari was a need to be. I thought they were really excited about T-Raw, Seth, and some of the possible priority free agent guys we have. I think I would tell you that two guys that have really, in my opinion, skyrocketed are T-Raw and on the flip side of it, my linebacker, Ryan Mead, just what he was able to do. So, but on the flip side of it, they're like, man, you guys are loaded. Like they literally say, you guys are loaded next year. some of the returning guys that are significant. We got grade back, and Luke was a 6th-round grade, right? JC was a very, very good grade for him, considering where he came in from. Gabe, Xavier. We had probably, I think we turned in grades on 5 guys, 6 guys, and all of them came back as draftable players, right? So all 6 of those guys are back, which I don't know if it might, like some of those guys announcing at the NFL draft this weekend, I remember having conversations with them about returning, and then I see them turn into what they did, and that's exciting. But I also think the growth and development of some of our younger guys, guys like Malachi Hood, guys, up front, the Angelo McCollum had a really good year. Some newcomers, James Thompson, Kurt Neal, Leon Lowry, the 3 Wisco guys, all took a huge jump physically and where they are. So I'm very excited about the players coming back that the NFL has looked at, but some of the guys I don't know about are really going to step into that role.
A guy that's already in the NFL, what was your reaction to
Kirby?
signing the
So,
contract for
honest, true story. As we all know, Aaron can be a little animated, right? So I'm literally, I'm in meetings all day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I had over 40 player meetings every day, right? So I'm kind of in there. We started at 7 in the morning, they went till 9 at night, very few breaks in between. And I came out yesterday, literally my first breath of fresh air in about a 3-hour run, and Aaron's screaming in his office, and he's talking about showing me the money, right, and paying me the money, and I'm like, who the hell is, like, I hope he's not talking to a recruit right now, right? Like, I know there's a new world, but I'm like, holy cow, what are we doing? And I had no idea what was going on, literally no idea, and I literally walked down the hallway, and I had to go talk to Steph and Thad. They're at the other end of the hallway, and I'm coming back, and I hear Aaron saying, all right, man, and he's saying goodbye to somebody. I go, what the hell is that? And he said, Kirby, and he shows me. And I'm just like, I knew he was under negotiations. I knew it was going to be a contract coming, but I know it's going to be at the unprecedented level as a safety. So, yeah, super excited. I sent him a collective icon text to tell him we're open for business. Kirby Joseph, kind of a cool story. When I got here, I sat in this meeting room, told an entire roster, like, anybody that wants to come back can come back, right? But then everybody was leaving the next day because it was the last game of the year, and at Exodus, none of my coaches are here. I had a couple of the seniors come in and see me, right? But I really took the month of December and January. I didn't really want to watch film on kids because I didn't want to build a pretense of what my roster was. I wanted them to show me what they were during winter workouts. I've taken over a couple programs, and I've just found that to be extremely beneficial. But I remember the name Kirby Joseph because he played he played DB, he played wide receiver. Pat had shared with me his recruiting story, right? They brought him in and offered him, and then they actually kind of decided if they wanted to offer him or not. And the DB coach that had kind of recommended him was actually, I think, let go afterwards because they, whatever transpired. So, like, he came in, he thought he was going to be a DB, then they moved him to wideout. So I distinctly remember I was in my office, we came back from classes, and Kirby Joseph walked in. I didn't know who Kirby Joseph was. I knew who Kirby Joseph was, but I didn't know who Kirby Joseph was. So he walks in, he's like, and Kirby's like, hey, what do you think I should play? I'm like, I'm trying to say, who are you, without saying who are you, right? And I said, okay, I go, I'm getting familiar with my roster. I go, give me your name. He said, Kirby Joseph. And I said, okay, yeah, you play DB, wideout. I said, give me a week. Let me kind of watch the film where you're at. I kind of had an opinion already, but we literally made a decision to move him to defense and play him at free safety, right? So, like, where that kid went a year, and I did try to get him to come back for a senior year because I think we could have turned him into a first rounder. Now he's getting paid better than all the first rounders and second rounders and third rounders that went ahead of him. So I know our evaluation process was real, but he made it real, and I'm super excited for him.
Coach, it seems like the recruiting cycle is a little sped up more than ever. Kids lock it in early. What are some of the good things about that, and what are some of the pitfalls of taking a bunch of kids?
There's a rule change, so you can sign them now.
Right.
You've never been able to do that. So huge NCAA legislation process, right, to get a kid when he's here on campus. He can't sign it on campus, but as soon as he can literally sign, I'm coming to you immediately. That's the game changer. That's why you're seeing it. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's a big part of it. I do think kids realize that in this spring window too, there's probably a limited number of, like last year we signed 12 kids in the break. I could have signed more, but I just opted to stop it at that. We all have a hard stop now, right? There might be a couple things to play with here and there, but I think that's probably the reason you're seeing a little more suddenness to it. Kids see what they want. They're looking for something very specific. especially the 1 year kids that only got 1 year. On the flip side of it, we've got a couple positions that I would like to sign multiple year guys too, because we got good players and we want to, have them have a depth. I go back to 2023. I thought we really didn't have enough depth, in my opinion, in the D line and O line. So that's something we're really trying to address as we go forward.
How do you feel about your
Do one more after.
your defensive front is the biggest change of your defense?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that group after seeing them this spring?
Well, I feel really good about the guys that we added. I think James and Kurt. Kurt had a really, really good spring. Tommy did as well. I think part of the departure of one of our defensive linemen because of the strength of what he saw of the guys that came in. That's whatever they interpret, right? But I think one of the great things is iron sharpens iron, right? And I just think so I got Gabe, Alec Bryant, in my opinion, Leon Lowry played really well. James Thompson, Tommy come in and did some really good things. I go back to the first time I ever had 2 first rounders on both sides of the ball. We had an offensive tackle, Gabe Creamy, who won the Outland Trophy and became the 24th pick, I think, to the Bears. JJ was the 14th pick to the Houston Texans. And I remember those guys coming out of NFL meetings talking about how they played against each other every day in practice, that Tuesday through Friday was really good because Saturdays were easier, right? And I think now we have such good players on both sides of the ball, those guys have competed against each other all spring, and that's really big. I think the strength of our offensive line literally becomes the strength of our defensive line, if that makes sense, because those guys are playing at a high level, and on the other side, and our guys have to compete against it. That's a really good thing.
You mentioned the inability of coaches at times to recruit on the road. Is that ever going to change back to where it was back in the day? Do you think that's
Well, everybody go on the road but me. So I'd love to be on the road. I love being on the road recruiting. I love getting in homes. I was so mad at the NCAA when they took the head coaches out of
That's
the
what I'm
road.
asking about.
Yeah, so the head coach, every year I've been a head coach, I've been able to go a home visit one time to a kid that we've got coming in. Sometimes it was before he signed, sometimes it was after he signed. I went into a home in January because we passed a rule. It was in the rule books. The NCAA faltered in the fact that they wrote a rule that they didn't put the language in it that interpreted it the way that they had interpreted it. I mean, it took them literally almost 10 days to give us an answer back. It shows that they don't even know what they wrote, right? So me and several other coaches were in the homes in January, but then we were told after the fact they couldn't because a couple other coaches got together from some schools in the southern part of our country that didn't want to do it. But I love getting in. There's nothing you can put a price tag on better than being in someone's home. I'm sure the first person that you want to get to know when you would decide if you want to marry someone is like what their family is like, right? And it's the same thing here. I mean, we're not getting married, not throwing a ring. Sometimes it's some money, but it's not a ring. But like it's really important to get to know who they are and where they are from. So that's a whole rule that I hope they change back.
Yeah.
But right now I won't be able to go into the homes of the kids that we sign again this year ever. And to me, that's the biggest malpractice in the NCAA.
And last thing
Yep.
is, was there ever a point during the offseason, the entire offseason, your quarterback was pursued, I assume, by other schools? Was there ever a point where you were like, I'm a little worried about this, but that never happened?
0.0 because of the person you guys know he is. I think outside world would say it, but I literally, no. Did I ever have concern? I had more concern probably NFL than I did college, right? Especially when his draft day came back as a 6, right? I'm like, well, listen, we could jump this up. But again, when you know Luke and you work with Luke and you're around Luke, his intentionality to his purpose is really, really high, and I think he puts a premium on people. One of the things I have to do really to help him in that next transition he's going to have without me, right? I'm not going to be the head coach of his NFL team when he makes that jump, right? And he's going to have to know what's coming at him before that moment arrives because it's going to be different than one he navigated now. But the transition he made from Ole Miss to here is going to help him just like that next transition will be. But again, I mean that with all due respect. Like his conversation was nothing more than, what do you think Coach Lundy's going to do? Of course, I was like in the middle of contract negotiations for him. Everybody's in the middle of contract negotiations, right? So like I was in the middle of it with Barry Lundy. Art, I had already made a plan to retain him because I knew 2 NFL teams had tried to come after him. So that was there. He really wanted to know what our plan was at wide receiver. Obviously, he liked what the growth of that room has probably been incredible. Added a couple of really good players. Wanted to know about the offensive line. I said, hey, help me recruit J.C. Davis. So that was a big part. And then literally right now in the portal world, I would say 2 weeks before the portal world came up, he hit me up. He's like, Coach, anybody you need me to contact, just let me know. I'll do it, right? So like he had been thinking about this moment, I think, way before anybody else had. So.
Thank you, guys.